Check one, check two. Check one, check two. Check one, check two. Check one, check three. Check four, check five. What's up, everybody? It's Gio. I bring a pretty good question to my months-long silence today. Can drugs actually heal you? Well, it really depends on what your definition of drug is. There's good drugs and there's bad drugs. But the problem is, when you say the word drug, there's this ugly stigma around the word. The first thing you picture are junkies, meth heads, crack addicts. That's why a lot of people say medicine instead of drug, because it kind of takes the tension away from using the word. If you're taking drugs and you call it medicine, it might take away your tension. But the reality is that the line between helpful drugs and harmful drugs is very blurred, meaning we as people are confused about what drugs actually help us and what actually hurt us. First, we need to acknowledge that there are hurtful drugs all around us that hide, like nicotine, alcohol, and caffeine. But all those drugs, they're known to be harmful with long-term use. And my goal today is to aim your attention at what you do not know, what we have not studied for decades. That's why in this video we will explore 3 topics that I hear people rarely bring up, and that's going to be psychedelics, prescriptions, and recreation. You know, recreation like weed, you feel me? Something that big and established countries have done is bring a negative connotation to the word drug, and in most cases this is very morally correct and good, because people should stay away from drugs, especially street drugs and hard prescriptions, because they'll fuck you up. But there's one exception, one type of drug that should not have this connotation, and that is psychedelics. Yes, the drugs that make you trip balls and hallucinate. Most people will argue that psychedelic drugs are just as much of a danger as street drugs. But little do people actually know the history of psychedelic drugs, how they affect the mind in the societies that still use them today. However, it's important to know that, like other drugs, there are synthetic psychedelics and natural psychedelics. In no world will I tell you that synthetic psychedelics are safe. Absolutely not. They are made in a lab, and I would actually consider those as street drugs because it's MDMA, LSD, ketamine, and I will not be talking about those in this video. Still, I'm talking about mushrooms and toad venom, so you're still probably sitting there like, how can this possibly be something helpful? Well, it all starts back in ancient times, because psychedelic drug use has been traced back to the Greeks, the Mesoamericans, the ancient Egyptians, indigenous peoples, and many more. Now, you may find it funny, but each of these civilizations had a spiritual connection to psychedelic drugs. For example, magic mushrooms were called Tiananacatl by the Aztecs, meaning flesh of the gods. But not only was it spiritual connections, because each of these civilizations also used these substances for mental and physical progression. The foundation of our present was built by people who regularly used psychedelics. And all that is readily available information at your fingertips. But still, maybe you're not convinced. So let's jump to the present day, April 2025. About 65 years ago is when the tabooness of psychedelic drugs started to arise. Even researching it made people look at you funny. Now, this lasted a pretty long time, until many years later now, where we're finally able to be a little bit more open and speak about it. This openness has brought a lot of psychedelic therapy retreats, and it has brought more treatment of OCD, PTSD, anxiety, and depression with psychedelics. And in fact, the main ingredient in a magic mushroom, which is psilocybin, has been shown to cure and treat depression in one high dose. Now, if you don't take my word for it, you can take Michael Stevens' word, who is an esteemed psychologist and a YouTube legend. He is the best at doing non-biased research, and like myself, as I said, he is a psychology nerd. However, he's straight edge. He's not the type to do drugs or drink. So when he made a video about trying the psychedelic ayahuasca, it blew me away. If you don't know much about psychedelics, then I strongly urge you to watch his video. But not just because he tried a drug, but because he proved that psychedelics might not be drugs at all. He did this by showing us in his video that us in America might view these things as harmful drugs or substances, but where he went to do this in South America, it was viewed as a medicine. It was viewed as something that people use regularly to treat their mental turmoil. It clears your mind. It doesn't get you addicted. It gets you closer to God, to yourself, to nature. It's used by communities and families. That sounds like a true medicine. But as I move into the second part of this video, I find it funny that, especially the people that are closest to me, what they consider medicine is things that are pills, things that you need to depend on, and if you don't use them, they make you sick. They give you withdrawal, aka prescriptions. Now, yes, of course, there are many people out there who cannot go without prescriptions for things like schizophrenia or pain medication. But when you tell me people can't go without anxiety medication, without depression meds, or anything temporary, I start to call you crazy. A lot of people have been made to believe that the only way to get out of mental turmoil is to visit a doctor and have them prescribe something to you, an unnatural drug at that. And once you're on these drugs, it's very hard to get off. But listen, the people who give you your meds, they're smart. They know what they're doing. So this can't be by coincidence, right? Of course not. It's all for money. Think about it like this. They put bad food on the shelf, you buy it, you get sick from it, then you need to go to a doctor who's gonna charge you. It's very bright out here, actually. You buy a phone, watch TikTok all day, and then go to a doctor about anxiety and depression. And they're gonna charge you. They're gonna make money from you going there. The best way to rid yourself of anxiety and depression and temporary health problems is to do the opposite of what you did to get yourself there. By using prescriptions, you are putting a temporary patch on an issue that's bound to get worse. So unfortunately, the best way I can say it, the people who regulate your food, the people who regulate your medication, they don't want you to actually be of sound mind and healthy, because they will not make money if you're healthy. Speaking of money, I find it very weird how a lot of states are starting to legalize recreational drugs such as marijuana. Do you think this is out of the kindness of their hearts? Fuck no. What's actually happening is they know people will not stop smoking weed. It's like nicotine, and they want a piece of the pie. So they're gonna regulate it, they're gonna grow it, and they're gonna sell it. Meaning, it will not be grown by your local weed man no more, or by your California dispo. It will be grown by the state. It will probably be grown unnaturally and sprayed, so it's unhealthy and probably make you sick over time. Not only this, but I can tell you straight up, weed makes you lazy. And if it's at every corner store like cigarettes are, everybody's gonna be lazy, so do not fall into it. I hope you have a great day, and no matter what you believe in, God and the universe is with you, and I love you.